Hello, my name is Colette Fraser, and I'm pleased to be presenting to you a recorded version of the content that was presented to parents at a session on March 29th, 2022. And I'm pleased to be with you. Thank you to Canadian Parents for French for allowing me to share and present Helping Support Your Teens Pursue Their Bilingual Success session. What are my intentions in the time together here is to discover enrichment possibilities for your children, learn about FSL curriculum and CFR levels, and explore resources and strategies that support your children's proficiency in French. First things first is what I always say, and I encourage parents to be aware and to explore the French as a second language curriculum. This image that you see here is represented in the preface of all of the FSL curriculums, and it encourages and mandates teachers to put the child at the center and to consider the cognitive, the emotional, the social, and the physical development in their environment when they're teaching. And as you know, the 2013 French as a second language curriculum really expands on learning in context, learning authentic tasks. So really putting the child in a situation and learning in a situation where they're improving their proficiency in French within a context that is authentic, that is encouraging a use of the language in a context where they would actually use it outside the classroom. So this is a central image to the pedagogy that's behind French as a second language. Other thing I always like to highlight is this general vision and the goals for French as a second language curriculum. And these goals are to use that French to communicate and interact effectively in a variety of social settings. So once again, that emphasis on not learning French just in the classroom. It's not a concept and a learning and a tool that you only use in the classroom context. You want to encourage the children to see it from outside of the classroom. And a lot of the tools and the suggestions that I'm going to be giving you today are really encouraging that possibility for them to go beyond the classroom with their French. The other goals are learn about Canada, its two official languages and other cultures, to appreciate the knowledge and acknowledge the connectedness and interdependency of the global community, be responsible for their own learning. We always want them to be independent learners and lifelong learners. Just a little bit of an overview for that. Other thing I like to share as well with parents is the concept of the descriptors, which are the I can statements or je peux statements that are part of the CFR approach to learning language. And those descriptors have been put in wheels here. I'm going to just exit out of my presentation for a sec here, and I can show you this in full. So these wheels are lovely opportunities for oral self-assessment for your children. And depending on those levels, I'll speak a little bit more about the CFR levels. So within French as an additional language in the secondary, you go from A1, A2, B1 to B2. So this particular wheel of oral self-assessment focuses on those capacities, those skills that we want your children to acquire when they're learning and acquiring the French as an additional language. And so you'll see here that this wheel, they're in French here, so ma vie personnelle, ma compréhension des médias, has each one of those I can statements. And their overall point is described here in these sort of thought bubbles. So listening, I can understand phrases in the highest frequency vocabulary relating to areas of most immediate personal relevance. Spoken interaction, that's a huge emphasis within the new curriculum, because we were finding students were coming out of grade 12 and they didn't have that confidence to do the oral communication piece. And really that's once they are graduates of the French as an additional language programming, that's really where we want them to use the language, is mostly in that oral communication piece. So a lot of emphasis is put on spoken interactions. So here it describes at the A2 level, I can communicate in simple and routine tasks, requiring a simple and direct exchange of information on familiar topics and activities. So that gives you an idea of A2. And in the province, generally speaking, A2, we're talking grade 9 extended, we're talking core French 10, 11. So that's just sort of a general area where we want the students to be by the end of that scholastic year. And the last piece of the oral assessment is spoken production. So now we're talking more prepared presentations, or something where they prepared their phrases and so on. So I can use a series of phrases and sentences to describe in simple terms my family and other people, living conditions, my education background. So that gives you sort of an idea of those descriptors and how your children might use them as a self-assessment piece. I'm going to go back to my slide deck here. So I was talking about the descriptors. I was talking about how that's where we, that's one way where we assess and sort of give benchmarks of where we want our students and your children to be. So this, the Council of Europe has within it very easy access to the CFR levels. I'm going to move us to that website. And it can be navigated in English and French, once again. The descriptors are here. They give you the actual list of them, and they give them for not only oral production, but as well as writing and such. Sorry about that. So you notice that they are in different languages. There's the tags here at the bottom. So you want to go to Français to get an idea of what those descriptors are for the different levels here. So the A2, we're going back to that. The beauty of it for you as non-necessarily French-speaking parents, you can go on the tag that says English, and it will give you the same description, the same descriptors for the different levels in English. And you know that that's, the description is the same, because an A2 in French is an A2 in English, is an A2 in Spanish or Italian. So nice little reference point for you to go consult if you're interested. And again, there's some self-assessment grids here that you can encourage your children to look at. So in French, once again, this is sort of a summary of those wheels that I was just showing you. So it talks about understanding when they're listening and when they're reading. It talks about speaking, so in a conversation, and then when they're presenting, and then in writing. So once again, nice tools for your children to use to sort of self-assess. And for you, once again, if you want to, you can go look in English to see what that direct translation is of these charts, so that you can better support your kids and sort of give them some opportunity, for you to know and better understand what it is they're aiming for within the programming, and also for them to use as, again, the self-assessment piece. So enough about teaching you about the descriptors. Now I'm getting into some of these opportunities for exchanges for your children to be improving their proficiency. I start, like I said to the students when I was presenting, I'm starting from bigger. So I start with this international student exchange possibility. So ISE Ontario. And within there, some of the newness that has been added. A second, there we go. Some of the newness that has been added is that they are granting some credits now. So something to look into. These are not free, these are paid. So these are paid exchanges. Maybe something, even if your child's in grade 9, 10, start thinking about this possibility and look into it, because again, they can gain up to 2 secondary school credits. So they're actually doing the schooling within the exchange and improving some of the credits that they can add to their French immersion certificate or FSL certificate, whatever it is that your school board attributes. Couple of other sites that are super handy and very much jocked with all kinds of information. So I always refer parents to frenchstreet.ca. You can navigate this site in French and in English, and you can see along this bar enormous amounts of possibilities and opportunities. There's family activities and field trips. There's this haunted walk. There is one in Toronto that the children can partake in français. All kinds of other different possibilities here. There's C'est Bon cooking, and I give you that as a strategy a little bit later on. So there's arts and culture. Again, lots of stuff to look through. Some are from out of province because frenchstreet.ca is national. But you can see here, again, some of these exchanges and programs. Some I will be mentioning that are actually listed within here. Some Francophone centers for your children that are in grade 11 or 12 and they're looking for some post-secondary opportunities. There's a series of them here. You've got Canadian parents for French national level and different provincial levels. All these different opportunities, so definitely worth a look. And there are contests and events that they tell you about. Again, Le Concours d'Oratoire, I'm going to be speaking a little bit more in depth to that. But all these different opportunities. Partager le français, which is in York region, is an opportunity for you as a parent if you would like to take some French language conversation classes. So that's some possibilities for you as a parent. So I'm going to keep going in my other opportunities here. CESWI.ca, nice little play on words, is a site that has been developed by Canadian Parents for French in Ontario. And there is in the nation and in most provinces a huge lack of, I'll go in English, a huge lack of FSL teachers. And so they have taken upon themselves to develop this site to sort of interest and pique the interest and encourage students that are presently in French as a second language courses to consider the opportunity of becoming a teacher of French as a second language. And the site can be navigated in English and French. It has a bit of a quiz so that students, it's almost like an aptitude or an interest kind of quiz, so that it can better advise them on whether this career is of interest for them. What I like to point out here is the resources. So once again, there's a lot of French experiences. They speak to university programs. They do tell you within the site here the benefits of becoming a French as an additional language. And one of them is it's high demand and there is security in it. When I first started teaching, there wasn't as much security in it. So this is a beautiful opportunity for your children if they're considering that as a career. It gives you all the steps that you need to take to advance and become a French as a second language teacher. So it's chocked full of information, yes, particularly for those who are interested in becoming French as a second language teachers, but also other additional resources where there's some for support and there's some for, you can see frenchstreet.ca here. Teacher 5 Étoiles is good listening opportunities. And there is a whole series of within, I don't see it here at this point, but you can also find a link that's called Where Are They Now? That's through the National Canadian Parents for French. Again, beautiful opportunities to people that share their story of how bilingualism has assisted them and helped them in their career, in their life. So nice listening opportunities for your kids, and also just inspiring stories. Then I go to Experience Canada, which is, again, full of different experiences. And you can see, like I said, I started with the international exchanges. Now we're talking about within Canada. And the guide here provides you with all kinds of information. This is a program that's 85 years in the making. So they definitely have experience. They've definitely pre-COVID, during COVID, and now we're into the post-COVID where there are some in-person and virtual exchanges that are being developed again. A lot of career choice encouragement and opportunities for the youth here. There are some youth forums and some online conversations. So here are some of the aspects of the webinars, the subjects of the webinars, which I find again are going back to that overall wanting to nourish the spirit of the child and their mental health and all the different aspects of their development. So there are a series here of webinars that they can, pardon me, take part in. And then once again, really honing in on some career choices, some webinar topics that address different career choices. And you see there's some of them go right into July, into the summer, so that it helps your kids that are looking to prepare their post-secondary and some of their career choices. And lastly here, definitely not the least important, are some of these virtual exchanges and some that are going to be, again, going back into the in-person exchanges within Canada. Here we are with the in-person learning resources that are also there that are directly related to some of the social issues that are happening. So the Black Lives Matter and the reconciliation conversation. So really another site, another program guide that you kind of want on your speed dial to help with all kinds of different opportunities for your children. The YMCA Summer Work Student Exchange, that one is aimed particularly at students that are 16 or 17, so the grade 11, 12 students. And there are different opportunities for them. It's an exchange, so you will be hosting a child, a student from the area where your child is attending the exchange. They are in Quebec. Of course, it's immersing them. That's the whole point of these exchanges. They will make new friends. They will be staying in that family, so really living the culture of the area. There'll be a lot of group activities, and they're building on their own skills. So the brochure is here, looking into that. Nice possibility for your students, and they get paid for their work experience. I wanted to make sure I highlight that. So that's of interest for your kids. They're developing some work ethic, they're developing their French skills, and basically improving themselves on all kinds of levels. And they're making money so that it helps pay for their post-secondary if that's what they're choosing to do. Programme de langue officielle, so official languages program, once again, a site that can be navigated both in French and English. They have and highlight within them a couple of different programs. So Explore, where, okay, I have to navigate it in English so that it speaks to immersing in the French environment. So to improve your, so it's a cultural, it's a social, and it's a travel experience. There is an admissions, so you have to do an application process, and this one is extended to May 31st. So that's somewhere where they can go. Destination for the future, for a few years into the future, because the deadline for this year is today. And Odyssey, a little bit more for, again, that post-secondary prepping where you can do some work and you can improve your French and the English sort of exchange through some work and working with children. So again, Programme de langue officielle, nice one to have on your dial, on your radar for different opportunities, because there are some that are also affiliated, some experiences that are affiliated with the government. So anything that that requires that bilingualism. So beautiful opportunities for your students. I go back here to Canadian Parents for French Ontario, which you probably know, furthers that bilingualism and promotes all kinds of different possibilities for youth and parents. And I'm highlighting here more of the possibilities for the youth. So when you go to their site, at the top here, it says participate, and it has all those possibilities. I'm going to speak a little bit more in depth to Concours d'Oral in a second, pardon me. But there are virtual programs, one in particular really aimed for those secondary students. And basically it's called Vive la Parole. It is there to improve. They're not being assessed. It's basically another opportunity outside of the classroom context to talk and to speak and to meet other students that are in FSL programming, and they play games, etc. So you can register for that. And the registration for the May session begins on April 11th. So keep that once again on your radar. If I go back to other opportunities, there are some French camps, tutoring programs. For the secondary students, I often suggest maybe contacting Canadian Parents for French and looking into doing some volunteer work. Your students, your children all have to do the 40-hour community service. What a great opportunity. Go to Canadian Parents for French, look into some volunteering there, and at the same time, working on their French proficiency, getting those 40 hours of community service, and then potentially looking into some employment. So it's a win-win-win situation. I mentioned that I would be talking more particularly about this opportunity of Concours d'Oral, which for this year, again, is virtual. It's for grade 11, 12 students. The closing timeline is fast approaching. At this point, there are not a lot of participants, so it's a really good year to encourage your children to prepare a subject of interest to them, prepare a speech that's from 3 to 5 minutes long. The rules are all here. And like I said, the timeline is fast approaching. It was open starting February 14th to it's now April 8th, which is in about 10 days. And there are winners in each category. So core French, extended French, French immersion, and francophone. That's for students that might have had instruction in a French environment and are now in an FSL environment, because we want to be equitable within each one of those categories. So what's up for grabs is really interesting. There's some scholarships. First, second, and third place. There's some possibilities of scholarships at Collège Boréal, which is in Northern Ontario, Université d'Ottawa, and then Glendon, of course. So you can see that they're valuable. $4,000 is a beautiful scholarship possibility. And if they win within the Ontario Concours d'Oral, there's then the opportunity to submit, again, this virtual, the same, or you could improve it a bit, the same recorded speech to the national level. And the national level has some really interesting bursaries as well. So you can see, and it goes beyond Ontario. Then we have some in Saint Boniface, we have some in Moncton, in Saint Anne, and even the University of Alberta. So really worthwhile taking that time and that energy, encouraging them to potentially participate in Le Concours d'Oral. Other place I wanted to bring us was if your child is considering continuing his or her studies en français, in French as a second language, there is a site called l'Association des collèges et universités de la francophonie canadienne. That's a long one. Unfortunately, I can't navigate it English, but there is a series of scholarships, of bursaries here that they can apply for depending on the college and universities that they're interested. And you can see by this map, there are several of them across the country that offer these bursaries. So if that's where they're thinking of heading, definitely go consult the ACUFC and look at the possibilities of applying for some of these bursaries. Other thing I always mention to parents and to the students is go to your guidance department or the department head within the school where your child attends and ask about different bursaries. I know historically in my secondary school, there have been huge amounts of bursaries that were not attributed because students weren't aware of them. I'm in Sudbury and I'm an FSL teacher here. And I know historically, for instance, because we're the nickel capital of the world, there were bursaries that were offered to children of parents who worked at Vale Inco. And if you didn't know that, you wouldn't take the opportunity to apply. So do investigate when you're even in grade 11, start looking towards them, and in grade 12 to make sure that there are some of those bursaries that you might apply for and that are easy to attain. Now I'm moving more into support resources and strategies. So à la maison is at home. For the younger kids, I say to do these les étiquettes, so little tags with words across the house so that, you know, you go, oh, what's this en français? What's this en français? And they have these little tags all over. You might be learning. Secondary, maybe it's more about a sentence and more about expressing, oh, you know, à la salle de toilette, je prends ma douche, je prépare ma routine. So different sentences so that in the house, there's always an opportunity every once in a while to plug in some French. Les salles du monde, the reason I often use the expression of français langue additionnelle, so as an additional language, is because we're in a country that is extremely multicultural, and a lot of homes now have not only English and French, but other languages, their mother tongue. So some households have 3 and 4 languages. This salle du monde, so basically rooms of the world, each room is a different language. So whenever your child gets into, I don't know, the kitchen or a different room, the TV room, they have to say a few words in that language. So again, you could attribute a couple of rooms in the house that are à la française, and oh, as soon as you walk in there, you have to say a few words or you have to say a sentence en français, again, to encourage them to, outside of the classroom, still develop their proficiency. Another resource, very targeted for 7 to 12 students, is Allo Prof. So you can navigate it in English. There is a section that's for parents, and here it gives you some help with homework assistance, exam prep, difficulties at school. So a little bit of helpful hints for you as parents. For your children, I keep saying students, my apologies. For your children, there is the possibility of looking into different subject areas. And there are some games, some videos. There's a help zone where you can write up a question and ask about something. And then there will be some answers that are given out. Like I said, there's different subject areas. If they want to support le français, there's some of the ones that have been previously asked about, but there are also all kinds of exercises to help practice their French and some games. Like I said, they can go at the different levels. So here, if I check off le français, it's going to bring us to some games, and some can be more about conjugation, some of the rules. So there's a slew of different supports here, and they are developed for your kids that are in secondary. So it's not all just for little kids. Other thing that I mentioned is le bécherel. Le bécherel, once upon a time, when I was in school, for example, which is a long time ago, they were these little conjugation Bibles. They were little green books, some of them blue eventually, and it was strictly conjugation. Of course, with the era of everything online, they have developed an online version of it. And the beauty is it goes beyond simple conjugation. It's got some possibility of doing some dictées, so dictation, which generally doesn't happen in the classroom, but again, if they do a little 15, 20 minutes, a couple of times a week of listening and doing some prep of their writing and correcting their writing, that can only enhance their proficiency. There are the quizzes that do stick to the conjugation for kids who like that. And there are some games online that, again, help with their proficiency with the verb conjugation, the proper spelling, and so on. Here we go. TV5 Monde, beautiful website, clips, everything is authentic, and it's about, a lot of it is about the news, very current in what it explores in its video clips, in the games, there's quizzes. It helps your children develop their listening and their reading skills. You can have the subtitles that are in there. And when they are in there, what I really like, once again, is when you go to this section, excuse my scrolling, there's a section, of course, I'm not gonna have it right now. That's why. The section of TV5 Monde is the one you want. Monde is the world. It has this section that says Langue Française, and it really targets and it allows you to say, I'm discovering French, I want to play some games, or I'm learning it. And when you click on this learning piece, it allows your child to put that level that he feels he's best suited for. Oftentimes we encourage students to challenge themselves and go a level higher, but you will have the same resource. There's one, for example, lately that's about Ukraine, and it will have different exercises. So if I go here, and you see that there's always a series of 4 to 6 exercises that practice at the A1 level, your child's listening, your child's comprehension of listening, and then working on their vocabulary. So beautiful site for adults as well who are learning the language. And again, it's about a daily dose of listening for your kids. Here's a little quick strategy. Flip your settings to French on your phone. Encourage your child to do that. Maybe you do that once a week and do it along with your kids. What words did you learn? What was challenging? How long? Let's see who can last the longest, etc. And one of the last ones is more about the writing. Most of what I've shown you is about listening, is about oral production. Bon Patron is a beautiful tool for writing and editing your writing. So I encourage your children to write their text in a Word document or whatever program that you use, Google Docs, and copy it in here. Here's an example here. And when they copy it in there, they do verify the text. And what's beautiful here, rather than just automatically correcting and not explaining, the program highlights what the error is and allows your child to learn and figure out what it is that is wrong with it. So it then encourages your child, oh, elle a, okay, I have to use avoir, right, elle a 40 ans. They correct it, they keep going. Different colors and different codes are different. It's either grammar, it's vocabulary, or it's conjugations. You can see here, they give you all the conjugations for le verbe être and all the possibilities of what it could be if it's not the proper spelling. So the child corrects it, can do another verification. You see how the one I corrected is okay now. And then once they've done a couple of those editing pieces, they hopefully have learned some of the rules and they won't do the same mistake again. And then they copy and paste into whichever traitement de texte, whether it be Word or Docs, and then they submit their corrected text to their teacher. So beautiful tool for editing and improving their skills in grammar, writing, and spelling. Last one I mentioned is Idelo. which is, again, a digital platform, over 15,000 resources. Again, encourage your kids to do that daily listening, to hone in on their skills, improve, so that it becomes automatic, that there's a certain range of vocabulary that becomes very familiar to them. IDELO has resources and some tools to support when they're listening as well, and how to listen to it. So strategies and such. You can open a parent account. It is free. You simply need to go to www.idelo.org. You can navigate that completely in English as well. The resources themselves remain in French, and the subtitles within them will remain in French, but the managing of it and a lot of the tools to support the learning are in English as well. Last thing I always encourage people to, I love food. When I taught, it was a lot about music. It was a lot about food. I incorporated those. Here's a nice little easy suggestion. There's hordes of free cooking tutorials en français on YouTube, and pick a night a week or every second week where your teenager either helps with dinner or they actually take on making dinner, and they talk to you about the ingredients en français. And not to mention, that's going to give them some life skills for when they do fly out and either go to post-secondary or go out on their own. I love food. Like I said, this is a highlight for me. Merci beaucoup. I hope you've gained some valuable information and some insights. If you have further questions once you've seen this, do not hesitate to send me an email at cfraser@on.cpf.ca. On behalf of Canadian Parents for French, I thank you for listening. Have a good day.